logging history roots run deep in the Northwest. And at this family business.
Fritch Mill was started by my dad and his uncle in 1950, so we've been on the same site for 75 years.
Eric Fritch's mill in Snohomish is one small splinter in this legacy Northwest industry, an industry that through the last few decades has hit its groove, constantly working to find a balance between the economy of logging and protecting our forests.
We should never be logging simply to cut trees. That's not the objective. If there's a need for those trees or a need for working on the forest health, that's what should drive it.
But this industry is now facing big changes nationally.
I'll be signing an executive order freeing up our forests so that we're allowed to take down trees and make a lot of money and then reharvest trees.
President Trump has signed an executive order instructing the Forest Service to develop a 5-year plan to increase timber production in federal forests by 25%. That has many Pacific Northwest industry professionals worried.
The timber executive order was solely, we need to log more. We need to ramp it up quickly. We need to follow the minimum amount of environmental review possible and just get these things moving fast.
The Sierra Club's Leah Brewster focuses on logging and protecting forests. Leah says the federal forests have a treasure of mature trees that are irreplaceable and should be protected. And we should continue to harvest in the same areas.
Areas that have already been logged and regrown more recently and are already in plantations have a much lower impact if they were to be logged again than to log an old growth or a mature growth forest.
The Forest Service says of the 9 million acres of national forests in Washington, only about 18,000 are currently harvested every year. A 25% increase would be about 5,000 more acres logged annually. This proposal also requires rolling back environmental protections on nearly 60% of national forests, which is 112 million acres here in the West. Protections for endangered species and waterways that local leaders have carefully crafted in areas that are logged. The Sierra Club worries protections won't be followed with this new model.
As we move towards a model where the Forest Service is less staffed, there's much less involvement in that process.
While today's logging isn't as big as it was in the 20th century, it's still a big part of the region's framework.
Balancing the need for wood products with the need to manage our forests for future generations is always a struggle and a balancing act.
The Department of Natural Resources Public Lands Commissioner Dave Upthegrove says the state owns 2.1 million acres and half of that is available for harvest. They are currently partnering with the federal government to log some federal land, but he says he will not support President Trump's new executive order.
We can get in and do work on those federal forests that will reduce the risk of wildfire, improve the health of the forest, do restoration work, and have healthier, better managed forests. And that's a good thing, and we're going to jump at those opportunities. But I don't expect we're going to be partnering and clear-cutting our federal forests.
At Fritch Mill, they've put work into making this process more environmentally friendly. Eric points out that loggers and industry workers have become more aware of environmental impacts. At Fritch Mill, they leave no waste. They can create marketable products from every piece of every log. Plus, tools are better now than when the industry first boomed here a century ago.
With better sawing technology, we're getting a lot more usable product out of a given log than we would have from the technology of 100 years ago.
And he says in an era of industrial expansion, wood is a top renewable product for builders.
There's work that needs to be done, and there's a middle ground for this. It's not all one or not all the other. Nobody in my industry wants to go and cut every tree in the forest. That is not the objective.
And as Pacific Northwest leaders wait for this final national plan, there's hope the balance that has been found here will continue. For Environment Northwest, I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti.